a generalized briefing about the possibilities or potential of a threat.
That's right. Because
to reframe my question, I'm asking if the panel considered specific instances or threats constituted by Indian disinformation.
Not during the writ period.
Thank you.
Because there was no information suggesting that there was disinformation or originating from that source in the Canadian information ecosphere during that period.
And so that leads me to my next question, is that the RRM, I did identify some vulnerabilities and some gaps in the methodology to actually understand or comprehend the information ecosystems originating in places like India and their impacts on diaspora communities. So was any further investigation or work done to address that vulnerability, or was that a gap that went unchecked during the electoral period?
Is there a particular document that you're referring to that you could refer us to on that?
No, there's no. I'm asking the question if those briefings occurred or if there was any attempts by the panel to address any gaps. So we've spoken at length about the targeting of diaspora communities, the impacts of disinformation on diaspora communities. So I'm trying to understand and help the Commission understand whether the panel was actually equipped or did any work to identify those gaps and fill that gap.
The RRM is always working to improve its capacity, including working with outside players, contracting, working with civil society who has expertise in this area. So there's always an ongoing attempt to fill the gaps that are identified.
So in your understanding, that gap remains in terms of understanding Indian disinformation and the information ecosystem?
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, if I may, the intel we receive about different foreign actors, about their intent and the mechanisms they are using and the approaches they are using to do some foreign interference activities in Canada, that intel was not coming from RM. It was coming from CSIS and CSE in particular, in terms of what they know, the activities they are seeing with all their surveillance work. So these were the two main agencies feeding us in terms of seeing the level of foreign interference that a foreign actor can do. Like RRM is not there to see pattern in terms of how they operate. They can follow a specific media and look at, how it is amplified, who's picking up on it, but they are not looking at trends in terms of foreign actors, activities and things like that. So I think that we have to make sure that we understand the role of all organizations here.
So based on those briefings that were provided about Indian disinformation by CSIS or any other agencies, did the panel conduct any deliberations or conversations about assessing a threat and considering an announcement to counteract Indian disinformation in any electoral ridings in Canada?
I think what my colleagues, I'm going to try it this time. So we were briefed by the site task force at the outset of our work around capabilities of foreign actors and some of the tools that they would possibly use. When we entered into the election campaign itself, we were being briefed on activities, any intelligence or information that was coming about how those capabilities or those tools were being deployed. And I do not believe during the 2021 election that we saw evidence of Government of India using those tools in the campaign.
Thank you for that clear, direct answer. So we've heard from colleagues at CSIS and the site task force last week that India targeted individual ridings or specific candidates in the 2021 elections. Was the panel provided with specific details about those threats, and did it consider any action or a public announcement emanating from that threat?
If we can put the country-specific public summary, I think that can help us.
Sure. I believe that'll be
in terms of what is
12
in the public domain and what we can discuss in this forum. And if my recollection is good, I don't think that we have a specific topic public summary relative to.
Sorry, Mr. Operator, I think it might be can sum 7, actually. Sorry, if you could just 1 second. Oh, there. Yeah, that's fine. If we can scroll down. If we can just scroll down a little bit further. So a body of intelligence indicates that proxy agents may have attempted to interfere in democratic processes, including through the clandestine provision of illicit financial support to various politicians. Were any of these specific threats considered by the panel?
Can I just say that I think the public summary speaks for itself, and everything else that we had to say as a panel was conveyed to the commission in the in-camera hearings.
Yeah, and so that's totally fine. That's what I'm looking for. If there's information that can't be provided in a public setting, if you can note that, and Madam Commissioner and Commission Counsel can determine if any follow-up is required in camera. So am I to take it?
It's the way we work. If a question cannot be answered in this forum, then the question is written down, and we'll follow up after the hearings.
Okay.
If there's a need to.
Yeah, so I'll reframe my question with that kind of background knowledge, that if there's information that can't be shared in this public setting, you're free to inform the commission that you're not able to answer, and the Madam Commissioner can see if there's any follow-up that's required. So did the panel specifically investigate or assess disinformation threats emanating from India during the electoral period?
I think we've answered that already and said no on disinformation.
Okay. And were there specific threats on specific ridings that were considered by the panel?
And the answer to that is no as well. And for clarity, the country summaries to which we've referred include a body of intelligence that is accumulated over a much longer period of time, including up to clearly close to the present day.
Okay, and so just to clarify, so your answer isn't that you're not able to answer. Your answer is that there were no specific threats or targets of any individual campaigns that were even looked at by the panel.
We were not informed of any particular activity in ridings that are in the subject to which you refer.
And were there
during our panel process, during the writ period.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And were there any investigations or threats about funding coming from Indian sources to any campaigns?
Not that were brought to our attention.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.